As small business owners, one thing we often feel anxious about is our pricing. Am I charging too much, not enough, or is this fair? All very common and valid questions. I've been there and sometimes still find myself a little flustered with the pressure of pricing according to the value of my products and the current state of the economy. After a great deal of research, I found a formula that has taken a nice amount of stress out of the process of pricing items we work so very hard on. So let's dive in. Hi, thank you so much for tuning in to today's video. My name is Ari. I love to say that I am a mama by day and a small business owner by nap time. My content here is usually geared towards all things small business and craft fair tips, but because it's off season, I decided to take a stroll into a different direction and share some things that I go through on the day-to-day. This video is so long overdue. So many people ask me about how I set my pricing. And even when I was first starting off, it was something that I really struggled with doing. So my goal for this video is to give you all a formula that I use that is reliable. It has helped my business to be successful, and ultimately it has allowed me to see a profit. Just a little bit about me and my business. So I started my business about 6 months ago, and I sell bookmarks, earrings, and different type of hair accessories. To say the least, my business has been extremely successful in the past 6 months since I started. I am currently in 2 stores. I sell online, and on occasion, or pretty frequently whenever it's the season, I do pop-ups and craft fairs. I learned early on that in order to make money, you have to have a profit somewhere. With trial and error and doing a ton of research, I finally found a formula that I have stuck with since starting my business, and it has proven to be successful for me. Before we even get into this formula, I want to say that it is so extremely important to know your worth, to know your value, and to actually care about what you're selling. If you don't care about what you're selling, or you can't sell it well because you don't have that passion for it, maybe reevaluate if you should be selling your products and your why. So many different small business owners and people who make handmade items, they underprice their items due to a lack of just overall value and seeing that they are worth it. Definitely sit down to make sure that you know your worth, you know your value, you know your why, you have brand pillars, and ultimately that you want to make a profit. Okay, so the first thing that you want to do is just sit down and write out where you got your materials from. This is extremely important because whenever you're going back, you might think,
oh, I'm gonna remember where I got this specific item from.
But more times than not, if you're working with a lot of materials, it might slip your mind, or by the off chance you order something from a different site this one time and you fall in love with it and you didn't get it from your normal site. This is why it is so important to just write down exactly where you get your items from. And off of that, you want to get your product or whatever material it is that you bought, and you want to count out how many items are in each bag. So get the product, how many items are in the bag, and you get the cost. You want to figure the cost of each individual bead or whatever material that you are using, so you can see exactly how one item out of, let's say, a bag of 25, you want to know how much that one specific item will cost. By pricing out each individual item and knowing how much each item is costing, even if it's a cent, is so important because it allows you to see where all of your money is going. And trust me, it adds up over time. So even small things like jump rings or eye pins, head pins, you want to keep track of these because, like I said, it adds up even if it's a cent. For today's example, I'm going to make a pair of earrings. And we're going to cost out everything needed in this pair of earrings so we know exactly how much these earrings cost to make. Today we'll be costing out the head pins, the bead, and the earring hook. For this specific example, the pearls come in a bag of 5 at $2.60. One single pearl would be 52 cents. Head pins come in a bag of 200 for $2.40. One head pin will come out to be about 1 cent. Earring hooks come in a bag of 15 for $10.54, making one singular hook coming out to 70 cents. That being said, a pair of earrings comes out to $2.46. So now I'm going to take that $2.46 and multiply it by 2.5. You might be wondering, why are you multiplying it by 2.5? The primary reason why I mark my prices up 2.5 times is to just cover basic overhead costs, vendor fees, gas, electricity, my Wi-Fi. This 2.5 markup usually covers all that extra stuff that you typically don't even think about. So now that we have those earrings at $2.46, which is our cost, we multiply that by 2.5 and that comes out to be $6.15. So that is how much these earrings cost to make. Now we need to factor in labor. What I'm about to tell you about labor might come off as controversial, but it is so important to actually charge for your work, to charge for your time. If you're not charging a labor rate, it sadly is not a business. You simply have a hobby. Also, it undervalues the people who actually have to make a living wage off of making their handmade items. Even if you're charging $7.25, that is something. I personally charge $16 for my labor rate, but I feel like this comes along with my expertise, my knowledge behind my craft, the multiple classes that I've taken, and so much more that I've poured into my business. $16 per hour is personally what I feel comfortable with charging, but like I said before, charge whatever you feel is fit for you and your business. For today's example, we'll be working at a $12 an hour labor rate. So let's say the piece we made, those pair of earrings, took us 10 minutes to make. So at $12 an hour, that's 20 cents a minute. So I'm going to take the 10 minutes it took me, multiply it by the 20 cents a minute, and I come up with $2. At a $12 hourly rate, making a pair of earrings in 10 minutes, you will make $2 in that 10 minutes. So now to price out my earrings, I'm going to take my labor of $2 and I'm going to take my cost of $6.15 and I'm going to add those two together for a total cost of $8.15. This will be the simplest formula for determining your base cost. So now that we've come up with our $8.15 price, this will serve to be our wholesale price. If you're going to be selling wholesale to stores, that's the price you would charge them. Retail would automatically be double that. So now one thing that you want to consider is perceived value. With your retail price, I think that is so important to actually just sit back with your piece and look at it and be like, how much do these earrings cost? So I'm going to put these earrings here again. I personally think that this pair of earrings will be about I would say about $18. For this specific pair of earrings, I have used, let's say I've used sterling silver, gold-plated head pins, and the pearls are Baroque pearl, so the bead was a little bit more expensive, and the hook was gold-plated as well. You can allow people to know these facts so they can see the overall value. Things that are typically sterling silver or gold-plated are known to be more, so you have wiggle room to be able to charge more for them because of the perceived value. Another thing that I like to do, but I don't put a whole bunch of thought into, is simply by going to sites like Etsy and typing in a general search for what I am selling, just to see how much people typically charge for the item. So after coming up with my retail price and marking my product up for the perceived value, I will look at what other makers are making and see if my price is maybe a little bit too high or maybe a little bit too low, and I'll adjust it accordingly. Like I said, I almost take this with a grain of salt, but at the same time, it is something to consider because you don't want to charge too little for something that could be making more or is expected to cost a little bit more, or you don't want to be overcharging. All of that being considered, I do want to say that certain products take a really long time to make, and that can make your prices skyrocket. I personally have ran into this issue, and I decided that this specific thing that I was making wasn't really worth my time, and I pivoted and made something in a less amount of time, and I was able to price it out at a fair price. So I will say, if your products take a really long time to make, maybe this formula might not work for you, but it all takes trial and error, and you know your customer base and really try to gauge out what they are willing to pay without cutting yourself short. I personally work craft fairs and pop-up shops, so I'm able to see firsthand what people are saying about my prices. Sometimes people are like, oh,
I love this, but I can't afford it right now.
So mental note, in the future, if more than one person is saying that, maybe I need to bump down my prices just a little bit more and make up for that loss with another price that people are saying,
oh, this is it? This is all that it costs?
It's all about knowing your customer base and knowing what people are willing to buy your products for. I say that, but do not forget your worth. If people cannot afford your products, people just cannot afford your products at that time. There will always be a customer base. If you have a quality product, your customers are going to find you if you do correct marketing and advertising. Do not undervalue your work or your product. If you know in your gut that this is a set price for you and your business and it is worth that amount, never go under what you know you should be making. Before I go, I did want to put this disclaimer out there. Again, this has worked for me and my business, and I've seen so much success from it. But like I said, you know your business best, and sometimes it's going to take a little bit more effort to find something that works for you. That being said, do not give up. You will find something that works for you and your business. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments, and if I can answer them, I definitely will. I hope this video has helped you out in some way and that your business continues to thrive and blossom during this season. If you like this video, please go ahead and like it, and if you want to see more content geared around this type of topic, go ahead and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you later. Bye.